So I'm Amber Saunders. I'm currently working for the company of Master Jewellers, also known as the CMJ, a buying group within the industry that represents independent jewellery retailers. It's been established for 40 years. Gone through quite a few periods of change really within the CMJ. We've got a new MD that joined us back in April last year, 2020. Difficult time, obviously, for somebody to come into leading a business just on the cusp of a pandemic. But yeah, we've got a 5-year vision that's in place now that the company is all working collectively towards, and the board have bought into. So my role within the CMJ is head of membership development. So I predominantly look after the new business element of the CMJ. So whether that be identifying new suppliers or new retailers, because we have quite a few geographical gaps in our membership across the country. But it also very much dovetails into, working with and supporting our existing retailers and existing suppliers, trying to make sure that we are what the CMJ should be, bringing those two sides of the industry together, and being that conduit between the retailers and the suppliers, and building valuable relationships for both within the group.
Amazing. So more about you, Amber. When did you first start in the jewellery trade? How long was that?
God, forever ago. So I first got involved in the jewellery trade through my dad, who had a jewellery retailing business himself and was actually a retail member of the CMJ. He actually originated through, he worked in Hatton Garden, he was on the bench, he was a maker, and then he got into having the workshop, but then progressed into having the retail side as well. So I was in the business probably from the age of about 12, I would say. Wow. Saturdays, Christmas holidays, summertime, wanting to get some pocket money, I'd be going into the business and kind of learning it really from the ground up. So I sold products in my dad's business that I now work with those suppliers through the CMJ. So, my dad, for example, he used to sell Brown & Ewith products, and that's kind of how, before I worked for Brown & Ewith, I knew of the brand. I'd sold their product in my dad's store. So I kind of got more and more involved in the business, but also very much felt that it would be easy for me to get a job with my dad because, you'd like to think that your dad is, rates you. So yeah. It would be quite easy to go and end up working in my dad's business because I didn't necessarily have to prove myself. No. So I kind of took the option that I'd go out on my own and go and approach the trade side of the business rather than the retail side. So went and worked for IBB, International Bullion, worked with them for a couple of years. And then my biggest kind of period of my career, I suppose, to date has been with Brown & Ewith. Mm. I joined them when I was, I think I was 21, maybe 20, something like that when I joined B&N. So obviously worked very closely with Gary. He was our sales director at the time, so I kind of worked closely with him. I did a postgrad diploma in marketing with the Chartered Institute of Marketing whilst I was with the company, and kind of just progressed through the ranks, really, if you like. And I think I don't know, there was a time when I dipped out of the jewellery industry for a bit, out of choice, but there's just something that brought me back to it. It's quite a unique industry, I think, and obviously the roots with my dad as well, and at the time he still had his jewellery retailing business. So I grew up with my dad having a bench in our utility room at home, so it was very much part of my life. And I just thought it's quite a niche industry, and I built up quite a lot of knowledge, I suppose, and experience. And I just thought I need to go back to it. And I haven't regretted it since. I've had lots of challenges, but it's been great. And I think I'd find it very, very hard to leave the industry now. You get to know so many people, and it's full of a lot of really great people. So yeah, I think I'm probably in it for life.
That's it now.
Yeah.
I can't let So that kind of follows on to, obviously we're talking about women within the trade. I'm guessing when you started, it was quite a male-dominated industry. I know now that that's changing quite quickly. A lot more women are coming into the industry. But did you find that you had any difficulties for being a woman back then? Obviously, probably not so much with your dad, but moving on to different companies throughout your career.
Yeah, I think absolutely, as you say, you're 100% right. It was very much male dominated. I mean, and I think back to some of my earlier roles, we had even, taking Brown and Neworth, it was just, a team that was very much of the time where it was pretty much the business was run by men. And I can remember that when I got into the management level at Brown and Neworth, we'd be having our senior management meetings. And I think at the time I was probably the only woman in that group of people. And, I have to say I was very much supported, in my role, and, I didn't have any complaints. I never felt that I was treated second best at all. But you had to be quite a strong character, I think, in that situation to be able to feel quite comfortable in that environment. And our sales team, the guys that we had representing Brown and Neworth out on the road were all men, which really, when you think about it, it's quite strange considering jewellery is predominantly a female product.
Yeah.
So, I think me being female helped in some respects because I've experienced the love of jewellery myself firsthand. So I think that helps, and that comes across when you're trying to talk to a retailer about your business as a supplier, taking Brown and Neworth as an example. You could really relate. And obviously during the course of my career with Brown and Neworth, I got married, or I got engaged. No, I didn't I was engaged already, sorry. During my course of my career with Brown and Neworth, I got married and I've had my first child. So they were quite significant, obviously, parts of my life.
Yeah.
And, I was able to still keep my career going. It was hard, don't get me wrong, because I think no matter how accepting we are of women in the workplace, the facts still remain that it's the woman who physically has the baby.
Yes.
Often her career that has to take a bit of a pause because they're normally, not always, but normally the person who's at home looking after the baby initially, having maternity leave. And, as I say, I was supported really well with B&N, coming back to work once I'd had my eldest daughter. I had the option of going on to part-time. They really supported me through that. And then I gradually increased my hours. So I was fortunate, I think, especially for such a male-dominated business. But obviously over the years that did change when we got more women in the company. So yeah, it was tough, because I think when you're career-minded, as I've always been, and I've always wanted to try and progress, it's difficult then when you bring children into the mix. There's always that guilt as well, I think, when you're a mum, that when you're working, you feel guilty because you're not with the children. And when you're with the children, you feel guilty because you're not working. So it's not easy, but, I've managed it, and it's been fun, and I've managed it because of the support of the people that I was working with, to be honest. And obviously my husband and my family had to help out as well to make it possible for me to go back to work.
So you say, in a way, which it sounds like you used the fact that you're a woman to your advantage in a way. You're extremely career-minded, and you were focused, and you knew that what you wanted, and kind of didn't really let anything get in the way of that. So
yeah, I would say that that's very true. I've had to travel with a lot of my roles as well, so logistically that's been a bit of a nightmare sometimes from a personal perspective, but obviously I didn't want to turn down these opportunities from a career perspective. So it's always trying to just strike a happy balance between working hard and your goals in your career, but equally making sure that you don't neglect your family. So, I can remember going away. I worked for a company called Jewellery, diamond jewellery manufacturers based in Antwerp. And I can remember going away we used to exhibit at Vicenza. So I'd be away for nearly 2 weeks. And this was when my kids, my youngest was probably only 3, something like that at times when I was first travelling with them, And, to go away for 2 weeks when you've got 2 young kids is tough. And I literally used to do a spreadsheet. I'd do an Excel spreadsheet so that my husband and my mum or whoever it was, and my dad that were helping with the kids during that 2-week period, they all knew where they had to be when. My eldest, her homework had to be in, or reading book had to go into school, or whatever it might be. But I think if you are clear in where you want to get to, I think there is the support out there now, and I think as well, even me now, I think when I'm in a position where, you know, I'll have staff reporting into me, I really support those women that are back at work that have got young kids, because I know what it was like.
Yeah.
But actually, what I think you find is if you nurture those people, that, you know, and they've been with you, especially even maybe before they've had their child, they know they're going to be coming back into a job that's interesting, that's challenging. You know, it's not what historically working mums might have been offered, you know, in a role where they weren't necessarily being pushed. They weren't really having the opportunity to excel in their career. It was just kind of maybe a bit of a 9-to-5 kind of regular sort of position where they weren't really using their brains. Whereas if they've been in a company beforehand and then are returning after, I think that individual feels much more invested in the company because they know that company is supporting them.
Definitely.
And enabling them to still reach their career goals, even though they might have a few years where they're working part-time, for example.
Mm. Do you think that you would still have done what you've done if you didn't have the support at Brown and Newarth after having a baby? Do you think things would be different?
I think it would have been a lot harder if I hadn't been given the support because, you know, quite honestly, with a young, putting a child into full-time childcare, you know, when they're really little is seriously expensive. You know, if I'd had to put, I mean, as it was, even with my time with Brown and Newarth, I had an element of my husband or my family helping with Harriet, but then I also put her into a private nursery for a couple of days a week. But to do that full-time, I mean, that would have been, probably now, it would have been £1,100 a month for kids being a private nursery from like Monday to Friday for like 4 days. So I would have really struggled. If it was deemed that for whatever reason my job couldn't have been done part-time, I don't know what I'd have done. I don't know that I could have carried on because I couldn't physically have afforded to put her in childcare all that time. And as much as career is very important to me, I didn't have a baby to then not see her all week, you know, and only see her, picking her up of an evening, bringing her home, putting her to bed, and then only seeing her for a weekend. So the fact that I had the support from Brown and Newarth meant I was able to come back to them and hopefully give value to them still for all the investment they'd put into me in the previous years when I was full-time and I didn't have a child, and still be able to bring value to the business, albeit on a part-time basis. But the support I had from my family massively made a difference because when I would have to go away, you know, with Brown and Newarth, we did 2 exhibitions a year, one at the Spring Fair in February and IJL, and I'd be away for at least a week at both of those occasions. We would exhibit Brown and Newarth at the CMJ trade events. I'd be away again, you know, so without the support of my family as well, being able to do what I needed to do at Brown and Newarth would have been tough. So I was fortunate on both fronts.
Getting support from both sides. You needed the support from both sides. Yeah,
and I think because I had that, I'm really fortunate that I was able to work through those years with my kids being very young. I mean, my children now are only 12 and 8, but they're, you know, my eldest is at secondary school, she's much more independent, and even my youngest, you know, there's after school clubs and things. Once children get to primary school, there are other ways of kind of them being looked after that are not so cost prohibitive. But yeah, I think because I had the support, I've been able to push forward and go on to now I'm much freer, I'm much more able to be doing things away from the children. But had I not been given that help at the beginning, I think my career path would have been very different. And who knows if I'd have stayed in the jewellery trade. You know, I don't know.
So, okay, what advice would you give either to someone coming into the trade now as a female, or someone that's a female that's already in the trade that could be facing some difficulties with, you know, maybe not necessarily discrimination, but just kind of a bit of conflict within the workplace, whether it because they're having a baby or they're returning from work, or even just in general, a young girl that might be facing some difficulty. What advice would you give them?
I think one of the biggest things would be you've really got to listen. You've got to really, really really research and know the industry and listen to people. I was really fortunate. I'm not going to keep on going on about my time with Brown and Ewers, but I was really fortunate, I think, that I had somebody like Gary to work with. I came into the business, obviously I had, I suppose, a bit of a leg up already because I knew the industry just from my dad's perspective, but I was able to absorb a lot and I didn't turn down opportunities, I think would be something I'd say to people. Even if you're put in situations where you feel a little bit out of your depth, believe in yourself and know that if your employer thinks you can do it, you can do it. Don't doubt yourself. And I think now the industry is much more female focused. You look at people who are in quite key positions within the industry, and there are a lot more of them that are female now, which is great. Like Harriet Kelsall, as you said, who's at the NAJ in a high position with the NAJ, for example. But I think, the biggest thing is don't turn down opportunities, even if you feel that you feel a little bit out of your depth and you feel a bit, I don't know if I can do this. You can do it. And for me, doing some additional education, doing my postgrad diploma in marketing with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, again, was something else that, Brown and Ewers supported. But trying to, I think no matter how long you've been in an industry, you can always learn more. So I would never even turn down training or anything like that now myself at all. If I had the opportunity of a course or a way to further my knowledge, I would always take it because you can always learn something. And I think really leaning on your mentors, if you like. So Gary was my mentor really, as much as he was my boss.
Yeah.
I was exposed to a lot of different situations, both with suppliers, with key retailers, and you never stop learning from people. But I also think another thing that I've always tried to maintain is whenever I've left a company, I've always tried to make sure that I maintain good relationships with them, never leave a company on bad terms, especially in somewhere like the jewellery industry, which is quite small, really. Everyone knows everyone, don't they? And if there's a negative situation, it can spread quite quickly. So I think always try to maintain good relationships with businesses that you've worked in before, because you never know. People move positions, they move companies. You never know when you might be reporting into somebody that used to be at a company that you worked at before. So I think, maintaining good relationships is key as well, I'd say.
Burn the bridges.
Yeah, exactly. Don't burn bridges and always be authentic. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry, can you just recap on what you just said? I didn't quite understand. People quite like that. People find it quite humbling that actually you're quite comfortable to turn around and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand that terminology, or I don't understand what you just said then. Can you reiterate it for me?
Yeah.
People quite like that. It means you're just real, you're not trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I was talking to someone a little while ago, and another young jeweler, female, and she said that one of the things that she's found, as these women are they're coming into the jewelry trade, they're really scared to ask questions. I think because still the older generation, the people that have knowledge are males. They kind of feel like, well, I don't really want to ask. I don't want to come across as this sort of bit naive, not quite sure. So asking questions, I think, is really, really key. And like what you said, educating yourself is key also.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, quite often you could be sitting around a table of people and you've got this thought in your mind that you're not quite sure of something, or you want to ask a question. And often you find that there's other people, men as well, sitting around a table that are thinking the same, that just haven't had the courage to actually ask that question. And you often find that. And your question can often then lead on to other people saying, oh, yeah, actually, I've got a question. And the conversation you end up having is much more worthwhile, relevant, and enriches the whole situation. So, yeah, I think I can understand that, I can remember when I was younger in the industry, asking those questions was a bit daunting. But again, I come back to just believe in yourself. It's not going to be a stupid question. It's probably something that other people around that table are thinking exactly the same, but just haven't got the courage to ask it. So you need to be that person. I think people, appreciate you being honest about not understanding something rather than trying to blag your way through.
Yes.
And just pretend you understand, because that's not going to be no good to anyone.
And that doesn't last very long when people see that. So, exactly. Confidence is key.
Yeah. I mean, and I've been put into some situations where I thought, oh my God, and even not too long ago, like a seminar that I had to go and speak on at IJL, the proper panel mic'd up that the lady who was going to be doing it, she ended up having to get called away for something really urgent. She said, Amber, right, this seminar is going to take place in 15 minutes. The panel are up there, you need to go and meet them. This is a subject you need to speak on. I know you can do this, but obviously I've had no preparation, none. Literally a few minutes beforehand, you've got to talk about, I can't even remember what the subject was now. Oh, it was about laboratory grown diamonds, that's it. Lab grown diamonds and if they had a place in the industry, or what my thoughts were from the CMJ's perspective. I was like, whoa, okay, right, no problem. But I remember thinking, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? I mean, fortunately, I knew about laboratory grown diamonds, and I had an opinion, and I could speak about it. But I would have liked to have been able to do a bit of more research and a bit more prepping. But yeah, thrown in at the deep end, and it all went fine. But yeah, it wasn't a situation I would have chosen to be in. But you get thrown these curveballs, don't you? And you just got to roll with it.
Definitely, no, it's really good. Well, that's it. That was all my questions for this. I didn't keep it short and sweet, but thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
No.